are now checking out
the Win Podcast,
where the everyday people
are the celebrities.
So let's get to know them. I want to know, who are you?
When you find out, let me know. Because that's the whole problem with being somebody who has a lot of... You see, I get bored very quickly. So because of my ADHD, I think I have ADHD. I go from one subject to another. I get up in the morning. The first thing I do is I have my cup of coffee. Right after that, I meditate for half an hour with my wife. We just sit there, we meditate. Nice and silent, just soft music, and we just listen to our breathing and we meditate. That has to center us. Then after that, if I'm in the mood, which I am lately, I've been so far 30 days doing this nonstop, I'll do half an hour of exercise in the living room and whatnot. Sometimes I'll go to Central Park because I live not far from Central Park, and I run around Central Park a little bit. Then I come home. I used to be a runner in college, so I still have good knees and legs. So then I'll come home, and then I'll have my breakfast. And then after I have my breakfast, I go, who am I today? Which is the question we started off with. Right. And I don't know. I mean, sometimes I'm the writer, and sometimes I'm the actor. On Thursday, I can tell you I'm the actor. Because I've got to audition for this show called Blue Blood, which I have never seen. I don't watch TV like normal person does. I love watching commercials. I've done a lot of commercials. In my lifetime, I've done 27 national commercials. So I like commercials because commercials are short little stories. Sometimes they can be funny, sometimes it can be sad, but I like commercials. But I don't watch TV like a normal person. I will either watch a movie or something. When I'm not writing, I'm watching somebody's work. I like to watch other people's work. I get inspired by other people, just like, you just keep passing that energy up. And that's basically who I am.
Was that always, was that something that always, ever since you was a kid, that you had? Trying to figure out who are you today or whatever? Of course, the creative bug must have started when you was very young as well.
No. Here's how it started. I did my very first play as George Washington. I was 4 years old in school. And my mother, being a typical Puerto Rican mother, she said to me, you got to get a white wig. But she didn't know how to. So she made this paper cone that she put on my head. And then she took cotton balls and glued them and created a wig. So I was visually funny. I get on stage and I have one line to say. And I stood there and they started laughing at me because I have this cone with cotton balls on it. And I just stood there and froze, and that was the biggest fear I ever had, and also the biggest laugh. And one thing that, if anybody knows me, is if I fear something, somewhere along the path of life, I challenge myself. So at the age of 23, I quit nursing school, and I said, I'm going to become an actor. And my parents said, why do you want to become an actor? You know nothing about acting. You've never acted. You've never done it. I said, because I'm terrified of talking in front of people.
Wow.
Okay, but that's not a good enough reason.
Okay, so hold on. 4 years old, you have this breakthrough role. You crush it. And you was just like, okay, I'm fearful, but this is a great big laugh. Then you go on through life. Right. Whatever, do your thing.
And I'm good at math and science.
Became a nurse. And
almost.
Sorry. Okay,
almost. I was at City College nursing program when I quit, and then I said to myself, because I also happen to be one of the most
famous nurses, pre-nurses,
erratic brains you've ever met. I saw the theater line. And I saw the nursing line. Now, the nursing program was great. There was 400 girls in the program and 2 guys. And the other guy was interested in me. So it was like, I was like in heaven. It was like a little kid in a candy store. And they were all beautiful nurses. So then when I turned around and I turned around online and I went, and I see another long line full of young ladies, and it's the theater program. And I said, okay. I'm going over there. So that's how I became into theater. And then I auditioned and got into the Leonard Davis Center for the Performing Arts, and that was a 4-year program. In that, there was Wanda de Jesus. There was a couple of other people who were well known. Wanda de Jesus ended up in a relationship with Jimmy Smits. There was what's his name? Richard Schiff, who ended up on West Wing, and he did like 7 years of West Wing, so he was one of the regulars. Richard Schiff, and that was it. And then there was me. So out of that graduating class, there was 3 of us that have made some sort of a living in it. And
so you went into this because all of a sudden now you said it clicked. You had this moment where you had this epiphany and a message that you was getting.
Well, I was scared. I was scared of
so
being
you
in
had
front.
this...
So I that's what I did. Many years later, my mother used to have this fear, which she passed on to me, of airplanes. She used to hate flying in airplanes. She would just sit there, and she had to take pills and whatnot. And she terrified me as a child because I'm going into this room with all these people. We're going up in the air, and my mother's really scared. So it transferred to me, and it became so bad that about 10 years ago I said, I'm going to conquer this fear of flying. And what I did was I said, how do you conquer something that you try to understand it? So I bought all these books on aviation, and I learned how to fly. I can fly now a small propeller, 2-propeller Baron 151 plane, which a friend of mine has. So we've flown around New York and whatnot, and I'm flying, and I still haven't gotten my license, but I'm almost there. You need something like 7,000 hours of flying time and whatnot, and you got to go through the instruction school and whatnot. But he and I have flown, and I sometimes fly a flight simulator at home, and I know how to turn on and turn off a 737. They're a little more complicated, but...
So when did it became... Now, take us down the process of it became a challenge. You were so fearful, right? So then now you get into the program for acting. What were you learning about that fear of you now finally doing it? And then I want to know, when did it become a passion? Because you got into it not because of a passion, but this fear that you wanted to overcome. So now I want to know, what are the lessons you was learning from acting about this fear? And then when did it shift to now, I love doing this?
I think it happened when I was very fortunate in 1980 to go on a tour. Besides acting and the other everything else that I've learned in life, I also happen to have a degree in technical aspects of theater, lighting, rigging, and so I was asked by Repertorio Español to go on tour with the company down to Central and South America, and it was traveling through these countries, these poor countries that you see people that are really dirt poor, saving their money to see a production, and it was really cheap. Sometimes the tickets were like 50 cents or something. But they were going to see these productions, and they were really so committed that I started seeing how theater can affect people's lives, and how I started to realize that film and theater can be a very positive thing. You will never see me sit down and say, let me watch a slasher film. You will never see me sit down and say, I want to watch that horror film. If it's a horror film, it's got to be like incredible reviews, and it's got to be good actors in it, and the story's got to be really tight. And then I'll sit down and watch it. I don't like to watch negative things because I see what it can do to the mind. A negative thing is like a child who is reinforced with negative thoughts. And I was very lucky that I was always reinforced with positive thoughts as a child. So I grew up with this openness but I saw some of my friends in the neighborhood whose parents, for whatever reason, were abusive psychologically. Just telling a child, no, you can't do that, already starts putting a limit on them and whatnot, and they can't grow. And if they can't grow, they can't be whatever it is that the universe wants them to be. And it's very important spiritually for me. That's why when I do stuff, sometimes I'll do stuff and I'm going, okay, I'm doing this for the money. And I know that, this thing that I'm doing for Blue Blood, I know I'm going to be doing it for the money, there's nothing there. I've played those roles. I've been on Law and Order 10 times, and that has never done anything for my career. I'm glad it's done something for my pension. So when I retire in a few years, I'll be able to. But for me, it's so important. So when I do a play or when I write something myself about something, there's always this hope, this happiness, this positive. You got to have that, because if you don't have that, you're not being what I think theater is about. And theater is about taking the person in the audience, or taking the person in the audience, whether it's a movie or a play, and guiding them and saying, you're the hero. You're going to conquer this monster, this fear. I mean, when you think about it, every good movie, when you're sitting and you're watching Tom Cruise be 007, James Bond, not James Bond.
For Mission Impossible?
Mission Impossible. You forget that you're watching Tom Cruise, and you become Tom Cruise. You go through that journey. And that goes since the beginning of time, when the first caveman said, look, I killed a buffalo. Then he painted it on the wall, he acted it out.
What I love is the honesty, right? And and you being realistic. Like, hey, this at times can be a job. It's helping me survive, but there's another side of me that I need to fulfill, that gives me purpose, and that is these plays or whatever I'm creating. I know, and I feel like that world in the theater or the acting world, it is divided by two different things. Like, I play these roles all the time. I know this is gonna help me to get bread and my house and food. Now this other thing, it's gonna really fulfill me. So, what are some things that you look for that fulfills you, that that I'm going to get on a journey with this, and I know this is going to give me something, playing that character or creating or writing this thing? What are some things that you look for to create that, or want to work for that?
Well, what I do is I shut off the brain, and I turn on the heart. And if I see a script and I go, oh, this is okay, this is very moving, then I go, okay, I want to do this. There's been very few plays like that. There have been very few movies like that. Most movies, what they do is they're superficially taking you through a journey. It ends, and you feel good as you walk out of the theater. Sometimes, the last two films that I've seen, friends of mine, and I do not want to mention the films, but I've seen two projects by Latino companies, Latino actors, and I've been so disappointed because one of them is like, well, I'll say it. I just saw Miss Bala. I saw a film that had really good actors. All the actors, and some of them are friends of mine that I've known for years, are really good in it. Okay, they are doing their job. But the script is like a retro 1980s gang, drugs. And then I did my research and I went, okay, how much did they spend on this? And they spent $15 million. They made $9 million. This is the business side of it. They've made $9 million. In the United States, they've made $42,000, which is nothing for a movie. So I'm saying worldwide, they've made $9 million. They're not going to coop up their money. They're in the red.
Ahead, yep.
But then doing more research, I find out that there's a Mexican version, which we copied, called Miss Bala, which makes more sense because I couldn't understand Bala. What does Bala have to do with I thought maybe they mispronounced it because it was Baja California and there was a Baja contest. But no, it was Miss Bala. And then I realized, of course, Miss Bala, bullet, Bala. Now it makes sense, but in English it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If you don't know what Bala is.
Yeah.
But anyway, and there's a 2011 film made in Mexico called Miss Bala, which is what this was a ripoff of, which is like, it has 4 stars. It's a good, really good film. Now, I commend my fellow actors for working, and I'm sure all of them saw the script and thought, like most actors feel, I can take this and make it better. As a writer, I can tell you, that if it's not on paper, if it's not really good on paper, I don't care how good you are, you're not going to make it better. And my always thing was always been, I'd rather be a mediocre actor in a good film than a great actor in a bad film. Because a bad film is not going to go anywhere. And the whole point of film or theater is to spread that information, to spread that goodwill, to spread that good news. I wrote a play many years ago in which one actor is talking to another actor and they're desperate. Everything has hit the fan and they don't. And one actor says, "Why the fuck do we do this? Look at where we are. We've got no money. We're dead broke. We've got no careers." And he goes, "Are you kidding me? Don't you understand? You missed the whole picture. It's not about us. It's about them. We are the priests of manhood, of mankind. We are the priests. When somebody has a problem and they decide that they want to go to their church, temple, synagogue, they get down on their knees and they pray to their God and ask for help. And then they sit down and contemplate and meditate and take in the positive energy. Well, when they come to the theater, they pay a ticket, they sit down, and they look at us and say, who are we? Well, and we tell the audience who we are.
It's always how I made a connection to it. It's a mirror. You know,
Yeah.
I am you and you are me, and we're both going on this journey together. So that's why there's a beautiful connection where film can do it, but there's a more powerful connection in theater because you're seeing it live. And if, you know, when you're in the moment, you're like, whoa, I'm Anthony or I'm Rick. And you looking at us like, I'm you right now. Because I get, it's like, oh, I get to see where you was in your shoes and where I was in my shoes. And that's this whole parallel thing of what you touched on, what theater can bring to your life. Not even to, you know, just for the laughs, but what is this message that is trying to convey to me? And I want to know, when you was on tour, you know, and that time you was on that journey on this tour, it touched you so much. You know, what made you continue on after having this taste like, yo, this is something bigger than me that I want to keep going on to do?
I think it just had to do with, I knew that deep inside I had to express who I am. And there's only one way to express it. You either write music like you do, you perform like you and I do. You've got to express yourself. Miguel, who we both know, he likes to paint. He expresses himself. You have to express it, and you got to be who you are. You know, we all have different, what I call different universal vibrations, and we all vibrate to different. But it's that vibration that separates all of us, and some of us don't need to be better than the best janitor. My father was a janitor, and he was really proud of what he did, you know? And when he was a baseball player, because he was a baseball player one time, he was really proud of that. You know, so you can be lots of things in life. It isn't about one thing. I mean, you're starting off here. Where you'll be when you're 70 years old or 80 will be totally different. And you'll go, that journey was interesting. But that's the beauty of life. And I personally, you know,
What was your outlet to express yourself when you was young? Because you didn't, I mean, after 4 years old, like, what did you do? Because I felt like...
I drew a lot.
You drew, okay.
I drew a lot, and I was very good as an artist, and I got myself into music and art in the art department, and I took sculpting. I was really good with the graphic arts. Then one day I discovered a camera, and the camera took over. And so during college, when I was studying to be an actor, I was also a photographer doing all kinds of photography. I did a couple of jobs for the New York Times, the Daily News. The New York Daily News was better than the Times. They don't publish that many pictures. I worked for a couple of magazines, and I did portraits, headshots, corporate. So I learned my photography very well.
So what are the two different feelings you get from that you can describe from that because I feel like there's a different expression between photography that you got to just release, and now you introduce to theater, and now you're getting this other type of high that you just express yourself. What are the difference between, what did it do for you in those two different platforms?
Well, for me, photography was about always capturing that moment when the person, because I love photographing people. Although one time one of my assignments was to photograph pigeons for the cover of a magazine, and I ended up with 900 photographs of pigeons, and it almost drove me insane. Today, I happen to feed pigeons like the old fart that I am. You go to Central Park, here you go, a piece of bread, you little fuckers.
I mean, it's the least you can do for taking all the pictures of them.
Yes, I knew your grandfather well. But
the feeling
for me, the feeling that I get is to capture that one moment where between Leonardo da Vinci used to say that the most important moment in painting a horse when it's jumping is not when the horse is in midair, but when the horse is about to jump and it's in his eyes already, and he's visualizing the jump. And horses do visualize. I'll tell you a story about horses later. Another fear that I conquered. But, so that for me is what I do with people. I photograph them and I looked at them and whatnot. And I'm waiting for that one moment when they put their guard down and they're themselves. And that's when you capture that portrait and you go, oh my God. And you never show them that picture. You wait until they've seen all the pictures and whatnot. And then they'll discover that picture and they'll go, there's something about that picture. And I go, I know. Look at the frame before and the frame after. And you go, yeah, they're almost identical. Yeah, but there's something in that one. And it's always in the eyes. And it's always so important that the soul is captured, that you grab that personal moment that people just are always hiding. That one that they're to themselves. When they look in the mirror late at night and they go, who are you? That's what you're trying to grab. And that's so important because in theater, what you're doing is you're taking the audience and you're waiting for that moment when, because at the beginning of any show or movie, you're sitting there and you're in a show and you're in a movie and you know it. And then there's that moment when all of a sudden you're going, oh shit, and you're with them. And that's the moment you wait. And sometimes when you're on stage, you can hear them. They'll go, ah, and you feel the shifting of the chairs, and they go forward, and then all of a sudden, they've disappeared. Now they're you. They're that main character going through that journey. They're the hero. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to grab that moment. Just like in the photography, you're trying to grab that intimate moment. Now you're trying to grab them because now they feel safe. They're in the dark. And they think they're hiding. But the human being has one thing that we keep forgetting. And it's that sense of energy. When you're on stage, you can have all the bright lights on you and you can't see anybody out there. But you can feel them. You can feel that energy. Just like when you walk down a dark alley, and this has happened many times to all of us. Yep. You walk down a dark alley and you stop and you go, I'm not going to walk down this dark alley.
Yep.
That's a sense. That's a sense that it's in us. And we have to allow that to happen too. And that can only happen if you are in tune with yourself. And that's why I meditate every morning, because it's important to center yourself, be in tune. You know, I don't believe in any religion, and I believe in all. And that's the way I live my life.
What were some lessons that you learned from your environment? Because like here you said, I remember you said, you know, you had these positive thoughts, surroundings and stuff like that, but then you also had this other side of your friends that you're seeing. How did that sculpt you to be who you are right now? Well,
the biggest, like I've said, I've had to conquer a lot of different points in my life, fears. Going back to the horse, I had to, I was scared of horses. And one day my agent calls me up and says, do you know how to ride a horse? And the first thing I said to my agent was, yes. And he goes, okay, you got to go and audition for this cowboy thing for a commercial. And I went, okay. And I hung up the phone and I went, holy shit. I called up a friend of mine who did ride horses and I said, where do you learn how to ride horses in New York City? He goes, Jamaica Bay Riding Academy. That's where I go. I go to Jamaica Bay Riding Academy. I find an instructor. I say, I got to learn how to ride a horse. You know anything about horses? I'm terrified of horses. She goes, okay, we're going to put you on this horse. They put me on an old horse. I learned about horses. I for 3 days. This was prior to the audition. I spent $310. I'll never forget that amount. $310 in lessons for an audition. 2 weeks later, I'm in Southern California on the Disney Ranch, picking out a horse for myself, and we're getting ready to shoot a series of 4 commercials for Ortega Tacos. Again, you have to conquer your fear. Now, going back to what was it
in your environment?
In my environment. I think it started with a house fire. I was 7 years old, and all of a sudden there was a fire in the floors below us. I was visiting my aunt down here on Forsyth Street. I'm from the Lower East Side, so I was on Forsyth Street when the fire broke out. The first 3 floors were already engulfed. The building was just going up in flames. We all ran up to the roof, and there was a big jump between one roof and the other. They must have been about 5-6 feet. Nobody wanted to make that jump. At the time, my mom was pregnant. My brother wasn't even born. My brother was born a few months after that. So I looked at the roof. I looked, and I could see the smoke and shooting of flames coming out. So I ran to the opposite end, and I ran across, and I jumped, which everybody freaked out because they thought I was going to kill myself. And I said, see, it can be done. And I ran back and jumped. And as a 7-year-old, I started grabbing people's hands, and we would go to the end and start running. And just as before we hit the edge of the roof, before we landed on the other one, I would let them go because I knew that would trip me. So I would let them go, and I would jump. They would jump. We would fall, roll over. I would get up, jump back. And I did that 7 times. And in those 7 times that I did it, by the time I had jumped with the final person, there was like 3 people left. The firemen had brought up a ladder, and they were bringing those people down on the other side. After it all happened, I'm in the Red Cross truck, and I've got one of those plastic things. In those days, they were not Mylar, they were plastic. And I'm sitting there, and they said, "Are you okay?" I went, "Yeah." And then I sat there, and then I started to cry. Yeah, I released all that tension. And that was another moment in which I learned the most important thing that any human being can learn in life is don't fear it. Just do it. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is somebody says no, somebody doesn't like you. Big fucking deal. You know how many times I've been rejected for parts? I was talking to Liza Colon, who's an incredible actress. And I love watching her work. And the other day we were talking on the phone. And I like that I can pick up the phone and call some of these people that are good friends of mine. And we just shoot the breeze. And Liza said, we were talking about rejection. And she says, man, the last year I've been rejected like 600 times. I said, I know, isn't that something? And everybody thinks it's so easy. You know, you get rejection is nothing. Rejection, like Thomas Edison said many years ago, was that every time that he failed in making the light bulb, he learned another way not to make the light bulb. That's it. So you got to keep continuing. You can't. Fear is the one thing that will stop you not only from gaining your materialistic goals on this planet, but fear is the one thing that will stop you from your spiritual growth.
It's so funny because thank you for sharing that, because it seems to me, and I could probably be wrong, but something must have happened I believe in past lives. Something must have happened in a past life that this fear stopped you from so many things, right? That when you came into this life, it wasn't going to stop you. Again, you was going to conquer it in many different forms. And your 7-year-old self didn't even think about this fear from jumping from one side to another. But it was one of the biggest lessons that it was teaching you that you was going to use for a horse, for leaving the nursing academy or whatever, and then going to be an actor. It already was installed in you. It was like, yes, I'm a little fearful, but I have to do what I have to do, and I'm going to go. So to me, it was amazing, because to me, hearing back, is like, I don't know if I would have done that, jumping from one side, but you just did it. So it showed you the rest It's just as simple as that. Whatever's gonna come your way, just do it.
That's
and
it.
because when you dropped everything and wanted to be an actor, it was easy for you. Like you didn't even like second guessed it. You just said, "Yeah, I'm quitting. I want to act."
And let me tell you,
I'm fearful of it, and that's why I want to do it. And I think that's such a crazy journey to do.
It is the craziest journey, and I tell people like my children always asking me, why did you go into this acting thing if there are times when you're having such a hard time just paying bills? There are times when I remember, especially when I was younger, there were times when I would just panic because I'm going, oh my God, I've got 3 kids. My wife was doing very well, but I've got 3 kids, and I got to help support the family. And I'm not, it's this whole macho thing.
Yeah, the world is telling me I'm not man enough.
And men have to get rid of that macho thing. That macho thing the ego is one thing that we have to control because it'll get in the way. And now when I see myself, because we were talking earlier about I'm unemployed right now. Now, for an actor, what does that mean? Well, that means that right now I'm collecting my unemployment benefits, which are my rights, by the way, but I'm waiting for the next gig. That's it. And once the next gig comes up, I do that. Now, mind you, being unemployed doesn't mean that I'm very careful with my money, but I'm not cheap. Anybody who knows me knows that Tony will spend money. But I'm very careful. And I'm constantly aware that this fear of not having money, you have to push it aside. When that monster comes up late at night, push it aside. Push it aside because you don't need money. Money will always come. The universe will provide. There's a famous quote in the Bible that says, look at the little birds. I'm paraphrasing because, hey, I don't read the Bible that much. Look at the little birds. They neither reap nor sow, and yet God provides for them. And it's true. When you look at all of nature, and yes, animals go through periods of hunger. And is that bad? No. That's actually quite good because it teaches you how much strength you have inside of you. I went camping with a couple of what I call white crazy friends, and I love them dearly. And they just constantly camping and hiking. So we decided to hike from upstate New York to the Bronx. This was a 7-day hike, hiking 14 hours a day. So I said to her, when we got there, we had plenty of water, and all of a sudden she says, this is your lunch. And I lie to you not, 3 crackers and a slice of salami. And I went, okay, but where's lunch? She goes, no, that's what you're going to eat for 7 days. And I said, okay, well, but what about dinner? Dinner, I'm going to make a chicken. So she had 1 chicken breast that was about the size of my fist.
Oh my God.
Right? For 4 people.
I'm hungry now.
Okay? And that's what we ate with a piece of bread and water. I lost like 10 pounds in the 7 days. Easy. And it was all fat that I lost. But I learned after a while, I can survive on very, very little. And once you know you can survive on very little, I think it opens up your heart and mind to accept that you can do almost anything. As long as you're willing to know that you've got to go through pain for it. That's it. There's no yin. If you want something, you got to sweat it. That's it. And if you want to be an actor, you got to make a lot of sacrifices. And I made a lot of sacrifices. And I'm here today, and all my 3 kids went to college. All my 3 kids went through private school. And I'm here today because me and my ex-wife made sacrifices. And now me and my second wife, okay, are living in a very, very simple apartment in New York City with very little furniture. We have what we need. I don't have cable because I refuse to pay for cable, so I get free TV. I have Netflix, and we watch whatever we want to watch. We read, we enjoy life, and we travel. We take 4 vacations a year, and not too many people can say that. Our last vacation was to Sri Lanka. We spent 14 days in Sri Lanka, which, by the way, folks, if you're going to Sri Lanka, the jet lag is a bitch. But other than that, you have to learn how to make sacrifices. You got to accept it, that's what it is. And sure, there are some Tom Cruises, some people who make millions of dollars. But with that also comes a lot of responsibility and a lot of headaches, and they can't walk the street. One of my dear friends, David Sayers, who's been in a lot of stuff. David Sayers, we were talking the other day, and he says, I can't go to LA because people recognize me. But he says, in New York, nobody cares. You put on your baseball cap, boom, 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 boom. One time I ran into Jimmy Smits and here's this heartthrob, killer, gorgeous looking, and this was at the apex of his career. And I met him many years before that. I actually helped him get a part in a TV series, and I met him and it was like he had on these thick glasses like bottles of Coke bottles and a baseball cap, and he had a beard, a growth, not a very thick growth, but a growth, and he looked like the regular guy. And people were going by and I go, Jimmy, he goes, yeah, oh Tony, yeah, and it was like that kind of thing. And they live real lives. These are real people,
What has, having children and fatherhood brought to your life and also to your creativity?
It gave me one thing, patience. I have twin daughters, and nothing will teach you more and make you more humble than to see 2 babies at the same time looking at you and crying, and you're going, what the hell do you want? And I'm the only guy in my family who could change 2 diapers. We have lots of twins. I can change 2 diapers at the same time. We have lots of twins. I was born a twin. My brother has a set of twins. I have a set of twins. There's 7 sets of twins in my side of the family. Turns out that my mother, who is a black Puerto Rican, or was a black Puerto Rican, she passed away many years ago. My mother comes from, her ancestral line comes from Nigeria. And Nigeria has the largest amount of twins in the world. So that's where we get that twin thing. And there have been many times when I get scared and whatnot, I bring in my twin. I gave him a name. I call him Michael. When I was a little boy, my parents took me to a psychiatrist because I kept talking to somebody who wasn't there. And I kept saying, no, I'm talking to Michael. Michael, he's my friend. What does Michael look like? The psychiatrist asked. And I said, he looks like me. And I said, okay. And so then the psychiatrist went into my birth records and found out that I was born a twin, and the other one had passed away.
Oh wow!
And I didn't know that.
So deep.
so whenever I've gone on stage and I'm like scared, and that happens to everybody because like the old saying goes, I don't care who you are as an actor. Derek Jeter is one of the greatest baseball players of all time, but every time Derek Jeter went up to bat, he did not hit a home run. So as an actor, sometimes you're going on stage and it's a bad day and you need help. And a lot of actors do whatever they need to do. They kick in an energy and whatnot. And I just sit backstage and I go, okay, Michael, step in. I don't want to be here. Take over.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you feel still connected to Michael? Mm-hmm. From young, me hearing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know. In fact, one of the greatest moments of my life. My mother died of cancer, and she was on her deathbed in the hospital, and my brother said to me, "Look, man, it doesn't look good. They think that she's gonna be gone this weekend." It was on a Thursday that she passed away. That following Monday, I had to shoot a Law and Order episode. And I kept saying, oh my God. So I talked to the producers, and the producers said, we're sorry, but we've got to shoot you on Monday. There's no other way around it. So the only other person who knew was Jerry Orbach, which I told when I got on the set, because I had worked with him. We had already shot some scenes, and we had to do a scene for Monday for the final scene. So he was the only one that I had spoken to. But I remember on my mother's deathbed, I walked up to her and she wasn't ready to let go. Mm-hmm. She kept fighting, and she was having a hard time breathing. And I said, "Ma, it's time for you to go." And she goes, "I don't want to go." I said, "No, Ma, you don't understand. You raised me and you gave me myself. Now I want you to take care of the baby. You got to go back and take care of Michael." And she looked at me and says, "Who's Michael?" I said, "My brother, the twin." Because she didn't know. I kept that as always as a secret, Michael. And she goes, "Michael." I said, "That's right. Take care of him." A few hours later, she was gone. But she went in peace, knowing that, and I know that energy of those two forces are taking care of each other.
Well, Michael came to take her home.
Yeah, and that was for me. So for me, Michael is as real as anybody else.
Yeah, that's your brother's spirit.
And if it wasn't for that moment, because I kept saying, God, how am I going to do this on Monday? And then as I'm walking down the hall, right after talking to my mom, I'm walking down the hall and I see this blue flicker of a light. It was 3:00 in the morning. I'll never forget that. And there's a blue flicker of a light. And I'm going, somebody's TV's on. And this whole floor is for people who are terminally ill. Nobody's walking away from that floor. And I hear this little laughter of like a child. And I peek into the room. And it's like an 11-year-old boy. He's got cancer. He's got all kinds of things strapped up to him. And he goes, "They're funny." He looks at me and they're funny. And he's looking at an old Abbott and Costello movie at 3:00 in the morning. And I went, "Yeah, they are, aren't they?" "Yeah." And I look up, and it was at that moment that I know that the universe said, "That's why you do it. That's why you're going to be able to do it on Monday. Because it isn't for you, and it isn't about you. Is you got to give back, and you got to make people smile and laugh. Even if the scene is serious, they got to go, hey, that guy was good."
When does it become about you? When do you reverse it for yourself?
I think any actor who makes it about himself doesn't have a long career. You can't ever make it about yourself because it's got to be about serving others. It's got to be about giving to others. And in giving to others, it's like love. When you look at your wife and you go, "I love you so much." She's getting that energy and she looks back at you. And this is a scientific proof, a fact, that the heart has so much energy. It has 60 watts of electricity running constantly. That's like a fucking light bulb. And it's got that much energy running the body, running everything, the heart. But scientists have been able to measure the energy that comes out of the human heart. It goes outside the body and goes on for 3 or 4 feet. So when you're telling her that you love her, you feel it in your heart. She feels that love. She feels it. And if you were able to x-ray both of you at the same time, standing next to each other, holding each other, kissing each other, and just being with each other, you could see the energy go like this. And it feeds off each other. That's what it's about.
I agree with you on one side. The other side for me that I will add on to it, I feel like it's a two-way street, right? Where at some point in the beginning, it has to be about you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because how would I know to make others cry if I didn't experience that myself? How can I speak about love or my tribulations if I haven't embraced myself first with those journeys that I go to? How can I tell my wife I truly love her and want her to feel that if I haven't felt that myself? Yeah. So I feel, I agree with you on that one side, because you want to make if you're doing comedy, you want to make them laugh. But in order for me to make them laugh, I had to experience laughter first.
Oh, yeah.
I had to experience what it was to really laugh at pain, really laugh at just stupid stuff. Then once it became about me first, then I'm able to give that to the world. But I feel, and from what I taught from Guru Enlightenment, my spiritual teacher, was it have to be about you first, because you are doing it. At the end of the day, if there was no audience, I feel you still would want to act.
Oh yeah.
If there was no women out there or men, you still will want to experience love somehow. But who are you gonna love then if there's no one in the world but you?
Well, there's always a sheep.
Right. But before you go to that sheep, you have to learn about yourself. You have to learn how to masturbate first before you go fuck that sheep.
This is true.
So you masturbate yourself, like, oh, this feels great. Then you just go on the journey. It's like, there's a fucking sheep. So what if I give this love to this sheep too?
So how long have you had this sheep fantasy?
Well, I'm writing about it.
No, listen. I agree 100% with you that it is about that you have to love yourself. There are times when any actor will walk off stage and go, "Yes, I nailed it," and you just finish making the audience cry. And it gives you a thrill, but it's because you've taken them on that journey. And yes, there's got to be, you've got to have an ego, because an ego also protects and gives you that shell that you need.
Yeah, like a positive confidence.
Yeah.
Positive confidence.
Because it's going to protect you from all the negative stuff. Because the minute, here's the other thing, a lot of people forget that the minute you're on top, there's a lot of negative energy to pull you down. But the thing is, you allow that negative energy, because if you stay on top, you got to look around when you're around the top and make sure you're not bringing something negative with you. In other words, you're on top, be with the positive people. Don't be with the negative people. The positive people are the ones that are going to feed that light within you.
I think this would be a great. Because I don't want to ask the typical question of like, what advice would you give artists? Because I think in this interview you gave so many gems, right? But I want to know, it's something that we all experience as artists. How do you get comfortable with waiting? Which is like a lot of people do not accept. They just get frustrated with it. But I feel like from what you shared with me, through your lessons that you learned from your journey, you have been comfortable with waiting.
I think I learned a long time ago, and this is very important, and this I learned through, again, tragic things that have happened in my life, that I think tragedy, a lot of people try to avoid it, but it's important to go through a lot of pain, because you learn who you are through that pain. But what was the question?
No. How do you was right there. How do you get comfortable with waiting? Waiting from everybody's telling you, oh, you're ready for this thing, or you're ready to do this, you're ready to do that. It's just waiting for something to come to you and just being complacent, just still waiting.
I think what for me is, and I thank the universe for it, is the ability that, again, going back to meditating. Meditation teaches you to concentrate on the very moment that you're in. And the thing that you should always avoid is that the dreaming of what if. You should only use what if when you're writing. But in real life, you should never have that, oh, what if I get that movie? Or what if I get that play? Then what do I do? The what ifs don't exist. My mother used to have this fear, again, going back to my mother, about flying. That's what got me into flying. She was sure that she was going to die in an airplane crash. She was so sure, she would always tell us every year, I'm going to die in an airplane crash. You watch. This was constant. She died in a hospital, never near any airport. So you when you try to figure out, what if I get that part? Oh, I hope I get this part. I hope I get this part. I hope that isn't going to do anything. Just do the best you can. And what I do is I audition and I read the lines and I audition with the casting director. And I always end it the same way. Thank you very much and good luck with your project. I wish them luck because I know that I did the best I could. They can like me or not like me. I've been rejected for I'm too tall because the lead is short. I'm too fat because they don't want to. That character has to be thin. I'm Latino. I'm whatever it is you want to think of. I've been rejected for. I don't take it personal, because every person who has rejected me has called me up. One time I auditioned for a theater piece. It required me to sing. Now, I can sing as good as a mule in heat. And that's about as good as I can sing. When my wife hears me singing, she comes running to the shower and goes, "Are you okay?" Because she thinks I'm in pain. That's how good my singing is. So I got on stage, and the guy goes to me, "What song are you going to sing?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I only know one song." And he goes, "Okay, go ahead, sing it. Do you need a piano?" There was a piano player. He goes, "No, I think everybody knows this song." And I stood there and I went, "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday." And I sang "Happy Birthday." And they just stood there and went, okay. 10 years later, I'm walking down the street and this guy bumps into me. Now he looks totally different. Now he's got a beard. He goes, "Anthony." And I went, "Anthony Ruiz." And I went, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm so-and-so. You auditioned for me once and you sang "Happy Birthday." And when you left, everybody said, "That guy's got some balls to do that." And he says, "I've got a play for you. It's at the Public Theater. Would you like to do it?"
Wow.
I went, "Do I have to sing?" "God knows." Oh, and I got the part.
That's
because
amazing.
he remembered me from being, and so you
being yourself.
You
wasn't being a
rejected.
dick. You was just like, well, this is the only thing I know. I'm being
That's
honest
it.
with myself.
And I look at you. You can sing, you can act. I'm going, how does he do it? And play the guitar. I mean, I'm going, God damn, multi-talented.
There's this question that came in my head, and I felt like I have to ask it, man. If Michael would come down tomorrow in human form, and you could go anywhere, do anything, what would that scenario be like for you? Where you guys would go, where you would talk about? If he could come tomorrow and be like, "Hey, I'm coming down in human form tomorrow. Let's hang out the whole day." What would that be?
I would take him to any barbecue place in New York and have ribs, which is my favorite meal, and a couple of beers. And just sit there and talk about life and talk about what I've experienced and the things that I want to share with him that he's missed. And I want him, because I know he's been around me.
Yeah, he hasn't missed anything. He's been by you all
But
the time.
I want him to give me his perspective on some of the most important things that happened in my life. And some of the things I wish I could remember. I mean, my brother has a great memory. I have a brother who's Richie, who's 8 years younger than me, and he has a great memory, and he remembers all kinds of things. I'm going, I don't remember that. I did, and again, like I was joking around, but it's so truthful. You burn a couple of brain cells smoking pot, and it just happens. But I wish I remember those things. But I think also it's a protective thing. The fact that I don't remember, I don't remember past 10 years ago, and I only remember a few things along the way. So the fact that I don't remember those things, that I don't remember really a lot of the younger things, the stories that I told you about me being younger, is because those are the ones that are embedded in there, and I can't forget them. But the other things that have happened in my life, I'm glad I don't remember a lot, because I wake up every morning and it's a new day. It isn't like, oh my God, I did this before. Even my wife nowadays says, "You told me that story." I did? Oh, okay. That's what happens when you get older, man.
So, Anthony, we got to know you as a man. We got to know you as a human being, a spiritual person. You're as an actor, writer, artist, and now we're gonna move this interview along to one of the segments that's called "Let's Look Inside."
Right.
And the first question for "Let's Look Inside" is there a meaning to life, and if so, what is it to you?
I think the meaning to life is to be happy. I think the universe allows us to be happy. There are so many times that I can tell you that I have sat down and I've said the following things. I've said, just before I'm falling asleep, I'll say to the universe, I need this. And it'll appear. One time I remember my wife says to me, we need to buy a small table. I said, okay. And she goes, what are you doing? I'm going to take a nap. Then I'm going to go outside and look for a table. She goes, what? We can go to the store. I said, no. I know the table you want, but I got to take a nap. I went, I laid down. Just as I'm falling asleep, I said to the universe, I need a table. I fell asleep. She wakes me up. Hey, let's go shopping. No. I'm going to get you a table. For some reason, I got on the bus. I got off on 14th Street and 2nd Avenue. I live on 102nd. I got off the bus on 14th Street and 2nd Avenue, and I started walking up. And along the way, I had a hot dog. I had a beer. I had 2 beers, actually. I stopped off at this nice bar. I had a hot dog in the street. And then all of a sudden, I turned around, and I looked down the block, and right by the garbage is a little table. I went, I looked at it. It was the perfect table. No scratches on it. I kept looking at it, all made out of pine. I went, this is from IKEA. I pulled out the drawer. No dust, no nothing. The super comes out and goes, yeah, somebody just threw that out. I think it's a good table. I said, yeah, it's mine. I picked it up, put it under my arm, and I walked home with it. All the way from, I think it was on 20-something Street that I found the table. And I walked up and I said, here's the table. She goes, oh my God, that's what I wanted, that little table. We need that little table in the corner. I said, there we go. And it's happened so many times. I was in Sri Lanka. I look at my bank account. I'm going, oh, coño, I got to pay the fucking mortgage. And I'm down. I'm negative in $300. So I said, okay. So on the plane, I'm just falling asleep. I can't sleep on a plane, by the way. I'm not fearful anymore, but I just can't sleep on a plane. So on a plane, it takes the trip from Sri Lanka to New York. You have to take 3 planes. It takes 30 hours. It's a trip. It's on the other side of the world. So anyway, we finally get to New York. I open the mailbox. Tons of mail because I told the mailman to hold back the mail. But do you think they listen? No.
No.
And in there's 3 checks amounting to $2,000 of residuals. I went, thank you, universe. I don't worry about money. Are there times that I need money? Yes. Are there times that I've borrowed money? Yes.
Have you times you paid them back?
Yes. In fact, Rick, I need to ask you.
So now the next question to that segment is, if you can teach everyone one concept, what concept would have the most positive impact on humanity?
Be yourself.
Perfect.
Be yourself. Man, do not try to be anything but yourself. If you're considered ugly, so be it. If you consider, I have worked as an actor. I am not the most attractive human being on camera. I am not the most talented. I am not the whatever. But I've been myself. And it's that energy that people see. That people go, wow. And a perfect example is once many years ago, I had a girlfriend, and she was not the prettiest thing on earth. You would look at photographs of her, and you go, okay, so she's wanted by the FBI. She had that look. She had that slightly criminally insane look. Mm-hmm. But the energy from this woman was incredible. And I used to hang out with her, and I loved the fact that she was so predictable. She was, besides being bipolar, she also happened, no, this is true. She also happened to always want to eat the same thing for dinner, which was a Cuban sandwich. That's all she ever ate for dinner. I don't care where you went. You could go to the fanciest restaurant, and you had to make sure that you ate. She would drink some tea or some soda, and then you would go out and find a Cuban sandwich, because that's what she was going to have. She wasn't going to have anything else. And it was always the same, a Cuban sandwich for dinner. I've met people like that eat the same thing over and over and over.
She was being herself.
And that was herself. But the beauty in her I cannot tell you because that was the energy that she was. You're yourself, and you cannot be anything but beautiful. And I think that's the most important thing anybody can have. Because the universe made you this way for a reason. You're part of that note. Well, you know how you write notes for a symphony. If you take one of those notes, that's what it sounds like. But when you put it in, then it's different. But that doesn't sound too good. But it's needed when you're writing a nice, especially a nice salsa beat or something.
Yeah, that nasty, that ugly sound is the lie that you tell yourself that you're trying to become. When you be yourself, it plays all the notes in tune. But when you try to be something else, you're not in tune.
Yeah.
You're out of tune.
And that's what it is, man.
The next segment of this interview is called Words from My Spiritual Teacher, Guru Enlightenment. And everyone knows she's my spiritual teacher. And from now on, you guys should have been already checking out all her stuff on her website. And all her information will be in our description. I like to share her writings on this show. So so people can tell me what they feel about it. And just to promote her great writing, her work, what she shares. This one is a segment from her website that she wrote called Inspiration. And I love this piece because there's so many things that she wrote in it that I feel people can connect to. And this one goes, life can be cruel sometimes, and that's why you need to be strong and learn how to depend on yourself first. Remember, everything starts with you first. No one needs to accept you but you. We put so much pressure on others and expect them to have the answers for us, but they also need to find answers for themselves, just like we do. We all come with answers within us. It's just we never been taught to believe that. How do you feel about hearing that?
I think she's first of all, I've met Guru, and she's one hell of a trip, man. I like her, and we get along well. I think there's a chemistry between me and her because I understand her. She understands the craziness of me. She once gave me a piece of advice which is rather personal, but she was so 100% right, and it had to do with me drinking alcohol. And she just said to me, "You don't need to drink that much." You know, she didn't say stop. She says you don't need to drink that much to be yourself. And she hit it on the nose. And if Guru is listening to this podcast, and I hope she is because I do have a sexy voice, just remember this, Guru. You told me that, and I want you to know that my drinking has gone from, let's say, 100% where I was before to maybe 10%. Wow. I now, and I enjoy now my life much better. And it's because with the alcohol, what it was doing was I wasn't trusting myself. And that's been my entire life. And that fear and whatnot. And you're constantly suppressing that. And so going back to what she said, I think she's hitting it so much. I mean, the truth really is within you. And I have a sister-in-law who happens to be a devout Catholic. I was born and raised Catholic, and now I'm all religions. But we were talking, and one day she was saying, she said, "God bless you," to her sister who had just sneezed. And I said, "Yes, I bless you." And she goes, "You're not God." And I said, "No, I am." She goes, "Don't say that, you know." I said, "You don't understand. We all are gods." And she goes, "How's that? Explain that to me." And I said to her, it's something that had been explained to me by an Egyptian. And he very simple. Let's assume God is an apple pie. Now, according to a lot of stories about the creation, God took a piece of mankind and breathed in life from his existence. So if God is an apple pie, and you know how you test an apple pie to find out if it's cooked, you stick a little, I don't know what that called, a cube, like a Q-tip. Not a Q-tip.
Not a Q-tip, but yeah, something, like a knife.
That's for the ear. But anyway, and you stick something, a knife or something, and you can see if it's cooked. So when God created man, all he did was take a little piece of himself and said, in my image I create you. So if we are that one speck of that apple pie, and the apple pie is big, and we're just that one little dot of apple pie, if you put that under a microscope, that apple pie is identical to this apple pie because it came from the original apple pie. So if God is God and we are the descendants of God, the creation of God, made in his image or her image, I like to think it's her because I'm telling you, she's too powerful. Made in her image, then we are just as beautiful as that apple pie.
I agree, because Guru teaches us, like, if we come from a higher source and it's, you know, and helped us with all these gifts and tools and gave us this, well, what do you think that we are? If we came from him or her, and we're powerful and we're geniuses as well. So
the problem is here's the problem, that we the people on this planet look at this and count on this, the physical body, as being the important thing, and it's not. This is just the
rental.
This is just the shell. The energy that's in me, which Einstein said, energy cannot be destroyed nor created. It is, has always been, will always be. And if that's the case, and he's been proven right in a lot of theories, including about my relatives, if that's true, then that energy, that's me, my spirit, my soul, which cannot be destroyed nor created, will continue to travel through the universe into another life form, another being, another form of incarnation. And that's what you are, not this shell. This shell is nothing.
Thank you for checking out the episode. Please help us out by subscribing to our podcast, writing a review, sharing with a friend, or leaving a comment. Thank you. This will help us so much.